Okay.
Okay, Akash, you're on.
All right. I'll share my screen. Can you see?
Yes, all good.
Okay. I'm not sure why that picture, but today we're going to discuss Kafka protocol. Um, and basically, what Kafka protocol is, uh, every client and within Kafka, the way the communication happens, like if a client wants to read messages from a particular topic, how does that happen, and what is going on underneath uh, the covers? That's what we are going to see, and uh, the way the Kafka protocol works, it's a TCP protocol, and the choice for TCP is a conscious one on Kafka's part, for two primary reasons. One is that we can they can make use of the TCP features such as multiplexing, wherein on one connection itself there are multiple sessions that can be opened, and the performance side of it is again one other aspect. It's a very simple and a high performance protocol that is used. That is a feature of it. Then it's language agnostic, and the protocol is versioned, and there is a backward compatibility which is supported, which means the newer Kafka clients can talk to older Kafka brokers, and vice versa. The newer Kafka brokers can communicate with older Kafka clients also. So now, what Kafka protocol is, basically it is comprised of 54 API requests, and if you read some of this, we might be able to make sense of it. Like for example, produce and fetch. So we can guess that produce is basically the API request, which the producer client sends to the Kafka broker to produce messages to a particular topic and a partition. Similarly, fetch would be used by controller, to used by consumer to read messages from particular partition of a topic. So these are all the kind of requests that are there, and there is a API key that is associated with it. So the Kafka protocol uses something called as key number. So if let's say I am the consumer and I want to consume from a particular topic, so I'm supposed to send a fetch request, and Kafka broker identifies that particular request using keys. So the key is one for fetch. Similarly, for all the other requests I mentioned here. So we are not going to go through all the requests, but the basic idea that I want to share here was that there are so many requests, and each request has got a key, which is used by the Kafka broker and client to identify what kind of request that there is. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take one example situation, and we'll try to understand what are the various request API requests that is used between a Kafka client that is trying to a Kafka consumer, to be specific, that is trying to join a Kafka a consumer group, and let's see what goes on in there. Okay, so we have a Kafka consumer here, and we've configured that Kafka consumer with a Bootstrap server with IP ending in 2 and 4. So it is going to start with 2. Let's see. So the very first thing that happens is, as I said, that the Kafka protocol is version request, right? So consumer, so it may so happen that the consumer is on the newer API and the broker is the older version. So what happens is, first thing that consumer does is it first tries to understand what are the various API versions that this particular broker that it is connecting to supports. So it uses an API version request to ask the Bootstrap server as to which version does it support, and in response, API version, the broker responds to the consumer saying that, okay, I am supporting these requests, and for each of these requests, these are the versions that I support, right? Now with this, what happens is the consumer is now aware of what API versions it is supposed to use for each of the requests that it may want to make. Um, so this is what the consumer knows. It knows now which version to use to talk to the consumer. Now the next thing is, of course, it wants to consume, right? That's what the consumer is meant to do. So the next thing that must happen is that it must try to find out more about this particular cluster. And when I say it needs to know about more about this cluster, what I mean is it needs to know what are the various topics, uh, what are the partitions within each of those topics, who is the leader for each of those partitions for that topic. So those kind of things that it needs to know. So what happens is, the next thing that happens is it will make a metadata request to the customer, to any of the brokers then, and it says, I need to know more about the cluster, can you please help? To which the broker is going to respond with a list of all the partitions. It is, sorry, list of all the topics. For each of the topics, it is going to list all the partition, and for each of the partition at that point in time, whoever is leading that partition, that information is also provided besides some other metadata also. Now, once the consumer has this information, we can very well imagine then that it can then, it now knows that which node within that cluster is it supposed to go to and talk to. Now, the next thing that happens is, okay, so the next thing that happens is it basically makes a find coordinator request. Now, let me explain what this find coordinator is. Once the metadata request was sent, what happened was that for the topic that for each consumer group, because it joined as a consumer group, for each consumer group, the group coordinator was elected by the Kafka broker, the Kafka framework, and that's what consumer is supposed to find out. Now, what group coordinator does is it is responsible for assigning the partitions to the consumers in a given consumer group. So for each consumer group, there is a group coordinator, which is basically nothing but a broker, which is responsible for reassigning partitions, or whenever a consumer joins joins a consumer group or it is leaving. So what consumer does is it has to know who's the group coordinator for the consumer group that I'm trying to join, and it makes a find coordinator request to the broker, and then what happens is the broker then responds back with the coordinator. So it has responded to this consumer saying this node number 3 is the group coordinator for the consumer group that it is trying to join. Now, with that information, it can then ask the consumer, it can then make a request to the consumer with a join group request. Hi, Mr. Coordinator, I want to join the consumer group with A, and then the broker responds with so the broker responds with a join group response, wherein it is sending the information. There are two things that can happen here. Let's say there are 3 consumers in that consumer group. So what will happen is, as a part of the join group response, this broker is going to respond to all the 3 of the consumers. One of the consumer will be the leader for that consumer group. So the leader of the consumer group is going to receive a response called join group response, where it will have the information of all the members of that consumer in the response, and the other consumers will get an empty response. It is basically simply an acknowledgement of the fact that yes, okay, I know that you've asked me to join the group. Just hold on. Now, the leader of the consumer group is then going to, after the join group response is received, another request is made, and that is called sync group request, where the leader is saying, hi, Mr. Coordinator, here is the list of assignments that I have computed for all the members. Please take it. So what happens is, basically the leader of the consumer group is making a sync group request, and every other consumer is also making a sync group request. Only the leader request has got some data. The other consumers in that group will send an empty request. Now, the leader's request contains information about, let's say there are 3 consumers in a given group. So it will basically tell, okay, for consumer number 1, I have evaluated that 0 and partition number 3 should be assigned to consumer member number 1. For member number 2, partition number 3 and 4 should be assigned, for example, and so on and so forth. Now, with this information, the sync group response is sent to all the consumers, and the information in the sync group response basically is telling the consumers that what their respective partition are. So that's how the join, that's how the consumer joins a particular group. Okay, now with this information, this this particular diagram basically will explain as to what are the various states that a consumer group can be in. So the first state, there are 5 possible states. The first state is empty state, where there is a consumer group but there is no consumer within that group, there is no member in that group. Now if any particular new consumer tries to join a group with a particular group, with that particular group name or group ID, then it enters into a preparing rebalance state. That is where the broker, the group coordinator has sent a request, has sent the response to all the members of the consumer group to say that okay, we have acknowledged, and the leader has received the information about the fact that it is the leader. And then what happens is, once the preparing rebalance, once each of the members in the group have sent a join group request, then it enters into a completing rebalance state. This is where the sync group request is sent from by each of the members in the consumer group to the broker, in response to which the broker says that yes, this is your partition from where you're supposed to consume, and that's when the whole consumer group enters into a stable state. Now you may have noticed sometimes that when we are, we in our experiences, we must have seen that exception, not a leader for the partition, right? Now what is essentially happening is that uh, in the Kafka cluster, let's say one of the brokers which was hosting one particular part, which was leading one of the partitions, has crashed. So obviously the controller in the Kafka cluster has realized that there is a crash on one of the nodes, and what it does is that it basically triggers um, a process by which the leader is then sent to another, is moved to another node in the cluster, but the, the consumer is not aware of the situation, right? So what happens is, um, when the consumer tries to read again from that particular uh, node which has gone down, or it has the process has crashed on that node, it receives a not a leader for the partition exception. And what happens as a because of that is the rebalance is triggered by the Kafka node again, that particular node, and that's when it enters the preparing rebalance state. And again, when the rebalance kicks in, each of the uh, consumers in the group basically makes a join group request where it says I want to join the group. And the first one, so randomly one of the members in the group is selected to be the leader, and the Kafka group coordinator is going to respond to each one of them. Only one of the person who has been selected as the leader is going to get the information about the fact that it is the leader. The others are supposed to receive a empty response, empty join group response. Now, once the join group response is received by the leader and the members, everyone responds with a sync group request. And the sync group request is basically all the leader, the group leader is supposed to it's supposed to evaluate the partitions for each of the members in the group and send that information to the group coordinator. Others will make a sync group empty request, an empty sync group request. The response is going to contain uh, the partition assignment, and that's how the consumer group is reinstated into a stable state. So that is basically how the consumer rebalancing happens. Now, what we are trying to see here is that there were many requests that came into play. One was the API version request. The next one was the metadata request, and then the join group request, and then the sync group request. Now, once this is joined, we can now intuitively think of what are the various other things that the consumer is going to do, right? So the consumer is supposed to send a heartbeat. So it is going to send a heartbeat request, which is the API key 12. Similarly, it is going to use fetch, which is to poll new messages from the Kafka topic, right? And then it may, when the consumer shuts down, it may use a leave group. Now, leave group, we may very well imagine that in a given consumer group, if one of the members sends a leave group request, it is also going to trigger a rebalance. and that's when each of the members in the group is going to then go through the cycle of join group and sync group request. So that's how the Kafka protocol works. And as an example, we took the example of a consumer trying to join a consumer group on the Kafka broker, and what are the various states that are there in that particular Kafka broker. Okay, so yeah, we can
Have some questions,
stop.
Akash?
Yes.
Okay. So in this consumer interaction, there is no zookeeper involved at all. Can we say so, or is there any flow where the zookeeper comes in? Akash, you probably are on mute.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. So between the communication that is happening between the consumers of a particular group and the broker, there is no zookeeper involved. Of course, outside of this particular communication, yes, each of the nodes, they record their heartbeat, they record the live status, and there are listeners, all of those things. But within this particular communication, when the consumer is trying to join a particular consumer group, there is no zookeeper involved.
Okay.
Akash, one query. Let's say this consumer leader who is actually sending the request for the data about how many consumers are there and what partition need to be there, the sync one. So let's say if the consumer leader goes down, then which state it would be in? I mean, it would be again in the preparing rebalance, because there would be the first would be the selection of leader as the first step, right?
Yes. So let's say the consumer leader crashes. So it was completing the rebalance. It was sending the sync group, but at that time it crashed. So what happens is there is a timeout, right? So within each timeout, each of the consumer is supposed to send a heartbeat, and if that heartbeat is not received, the group coordinator is going to trigger a rebalance again, which means the consumer group will enter a preparing rebalance state. And then again, each of the consumers is going to, and that's where we see those messages in the logs saying that the triggering rebalance, those things.
Okay.
So is it right to say that heartbeats go to zookeeper and the zookeeper initiates any of these activities, Akash, or is it also going to the coordinator only, the group coordinator?
That is going to the coordinator, and each of the nodes are then, so the ephemeral nodes, right? The nodes are sending the heartbeat to the zookeeper. So it's basically like the zookeeper. There are ephemeral nodes for each of the nodes that is in the cluster, and if let's say for a certain duration, there is no there is no update sent to the zookeeper, then the ephemeral node expires, and the controller of the Kafka cluster is watching that particular node, and the moment it expires, the controller takes over and assigns the group coordinator, and then the rest of the things again happen. So in this case, for example, the coordinator might be moved to another node altogether, which means it will go into a dead state, and that also will trigger a rebalance. But the consumer heartbeat is going to the group coordinator.
Very interesting. Any other questions before we stop recording here?
So right, so it's just that the so similarly, for example, when the consumer, let's say there are three consumers in a given, or let's say let's talk about a situation where there are messages being produced to the partitions. Now what happens is, let's say there are three partitions, and the acknowledgement mode for the producer is all. Now there is one leader to which the producer is obviously producing, and then it has to wait, right? So the other two partitions are acting as a consumer. They are in fact a consumer only, and each of these consumer is supposed to consume from the topic, and then commit the messages to a log, and then acknowledge back and commit the offset again. So once that happens, that's when the write is acknowledged back to the producer. For that also, like we can imagine there is a produce API request, Similarly, offset fetch, offset commit request. So whenever we are committing the offset manually, this particular API request is what is internally triggered, and we can imagine the other API requests that are there, and that's how it is. That's how basically the communication between the clients and the Kafka brokers happen. And each Kafka broker may itself act as a client also in the example that we just discussed. Also, for example, where one of the Kafka brokers is acting as a consumer to replicate the messages. There also it is used.
Okay, great stuff. If there are no more questions, I will stop the recording here.